If a person doesn't know how to be vulnerable with something, they can never understand bravery and risk-taking, and they can never understand the frontier because they're holding back. They're playing it safe. And that safety that we play in that way, one, never lets another person in. Two, prevents you from understanding what you're fully capable of. Welcome back, or welcome to another Ask Me Anything on Finding Mastery. I am your host, Dr. Michael Gervais, by trade and training a high-performance psychologist. And the purpose behind these conversations, behind these AMAs, is to hear from you, to explore the topics and questions that you have been wrestling with on your path to becoming. So we're back for AMA 15 with our incredible co-host, O'Neill Cespedes. And we've got a fun one for you today. You hit us up with some great questions. In this episode, we're going to explore how humor can be a powerful tool in high-performing environments, the intimate link between physical pain and emotional well-being, the changing definition of manhood, how to practice psychological agility, navigating the shame of dealing with invisible struggles, setting intentions for the new year. And we're getting into so much more than that as well. So with that, let's jump right into volume 15 of Finding Mastery's Ask Me Anything.
Dr. Mike.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
I mean, how did it happen this fast?
We're getting older, that's why.
Yeah.
You know how I go.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Hey, let me, well, thank you first of all, but let me congratulate you.
Yeah.
USA Today.
I know. How about it?
Debut number 10. That's big time.
You know what? Our community came together. So what a treat, what a surprise. You know, like I had this thought that there was something happening with the concepts in the book.
Yeah.
And it was private. And then, you know, kind of ship it and see if there's a little bit of traction. And I knew our community was going to show up. The Finding Mastery community was going to show up and they did. And then it just one level out, another level out. And all of a sudden, before you know it, like number 10 on the USA Today. Best, that was such a surprise.
Well deserved.
Yeah. So stoked. It's been really fun. So thank you.
Of course. So, you know, I know you're becoming big time now. So
no, stop.
I just want to be your security.
Yeah.
I want to be the guy that's like, Dr. Mike can't talk right now.
Oh my God.
We're going to the clubs and be like, hey, we're with Dr. Mike. You gonna let us in?
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't think that card comes with
no
USA
club
Today.
entrance?
No, I don't think that card
okay.
came.
All right.
Yeah. Card comes in the mail, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think so.
Yeah. Right.
Yes,
yeah.
okay,
I just didn't get that one.
All right. Okay. Well, all right.
Hey, how do you celebrate New Year, New You? Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, I don't really subscribe to it, you know, because I think it's cliche.
Yeah.
But then I'm the person who always goes left when people go right. So maybe I'm just doing that just for the hell of it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Well, I do like the science that when you can find moments to start or restart, you know, like I do like that bit of research. Like a Monday is a way to start new.
Yeah.
And a Wednesday could be a way to start new as well.
Yeah.
You know, like beginning of whatever, turning over a new leaf, wherever you can find those moments. I do like that ability to recalibrate, to reset. And it can be daily, weekly, it could be annually, of course. The research is very clear that resolutions don't hold. And so you're not going to hear me talking about resolutions. That's not going to happen.
You know what? I think I'm lying to you.
Oh, you've got resolutions.
I don't, not outright. I don't say it, but I got up this morning and I said to myself, man, I need to start mobilizing in the morning. I got up like at 5-something this morning because I hurt my back years ago doing jujitsu, and ever since I hurt my back, it's killed a lot of my flexibility. So I got up this morning and I was mobilizing, and well, let me back up. When I hurt my back, I'd fallen into a depression because the next day after training, I couldn't get out of bed to use the bathroom. I literally had to drag myself out of bed. And there was a time before that I just had made the decision, okay, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna use the bathroom in the bed. I can't move. It was that bad.
Whoa, yeah.
And then eventually I just fought through the pain and dragged myself to the bathroom. But I fell into a slight little depression. Then it dawned on me after that as my back started healing up.
So is that the macho way of saying I was really down?
I mean, yeah, you're right. I was kind of down. I wasn't depressed. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
So depression, mild, moderate, or severe?
Come on, man, mild. Dr. Mike, come on, man. Mild.
Was it?
It's about as far as it'll go.
Yeah,
I was like, it's hurt. It's about
Yeah, so technically, mild, moderate, or severe are the ways that a classically trained person would think about when someone says the word depression.
Yeah.
Now, if you felt just like you were, I don't know, like, but that's like a more mild.
Okay.
And if you're like in the moderate, severe, it's like severe is like, man, something's not right now, and like I'm a little scared about how down I am, and it's dark in here, and I can't shake it. It's not like I'm going to this place. I'm just saturated, and it feels like I'm in quicksand, and I'm trying to get out of it, but I just can't. And man, there's this hollow feeling, and there's an emptiness, and like I feel hopeless. I think I kind of suck at life. I think you suck too. I think it's always going to suck, and I think they suck. Like, what are we doing? So that it's like severe in that way. And then moderate is somewhere in between the two. And so have you had an episode before of clinical depression?
What does it mean when you cry?
Oh, that's normal.
Okay. I was crying. I had crying depression.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, like, crying is normal.
Okay. Well, yeah. I was crying.
It's hurt. It's not celebrated enough.
I can't move. This sucks not being able to move.
And how long did it last for?
Man, you know what? It lasted for a solid 3 weeks. It was that bad. Like I'd sit down, I'd have sharp pains.
Yeah. Well, some people say, oh, it's 6 months. Some people are like, like it was on. Like, you kidding me? Like it's been like 18 months. So your duration is not that long, 3 weeks, but it's considered it was an organic depression. It's not like one day you woke up and it's like, whoa, what happened to the light? It was triggered by an injury, right? Yeah. So that's actually an important part to note. During the injury cycle, people can have a dysregulation neurochemically and neuroelectrically that affects mood. And so that can happen just from the injury because you're now literally in a different body. Your chemistry is literally different in your brain.
Yeah.
And then it can trigger, that in and of itself can be a trigger for, let's call it an appropriate response to something that is like you're wrestling with physical pain. So physical pain and emotional pain happen in the same centers of the brain. So when you have physical pain, it's nearly indistinguishable from an fMRI perspective of whether you're in emotional pain or physical pain. Interestingly enough, the way that we experience it. Yeah. So this onset was triggered by an external event, an injury. That's important to note. And it lasted 3 weeks. And then of that 3 weeks, would you say mild, moderate, or severe?
I would say moderate.
Yeah. So there you go. How'd you work through it?
I mean, I endured. I just endured. I decided
it's a good word for depression.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you reach out? Did you mobilize your external resources? Did you?
I went to a PT, if that's what you mean. Yeah.
That's one way. But like, did you tell people that like, hey, I'm not like feeling like lonely and kind of overwhelmed and like, I feel just sad in a new kind of way.
No, I did not do that, Dr. Mike. I just said my back is messed up.
Mm-hmm.
I said my back hurts, and I went to a PT. Now that you put it the way you put it, makes me feel like maybe I was avoiding some things.
Yeah, and the physical health rehabilitation world is better now. And so I would hope that if you went in, if you had like an injury, physical injury, and you went in and like, hey, man, this thing happened, and they would go, okay, good. How you doing psychologically too? And it just give you a window to say, yeah, I'm actually not great, and that gives you a window to have at least one other person that you've shared with.
Yeah.
And then now you've got a professional that can say, hey, you know what? I think it'd be great while you're doing this physical training. Like, let's get some of this mental, emotional training going as well.
Okay, back up. So, because my PT didn't ask me any of that. Yeah. Obviously I joked about it like we do, right? Mm-hmm. I've been depressed since my back hurt.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Obviously there's some truth behind that.
That's right. Yeah, right.
But no, you're saying now that's being explored now.
I think we're better. The industry is better now
Yeah.
at that, because hand in hand, like physical, emotional, mental, all of those forms of wellness are so intimately tied. When one is wobbling, the other two are definitely are impacted.
Yeah.
And so, like, go back to that phase, that time, you're literally in a different body, okay, when you're in acute injury. And so the neurochemistry, neuroelectricity is impacted, which can change and have radical impact on your mood and your sense of emotional well-being. And let's say that it triggered a whole cascade of thoughts like, wait, who am I without this physical prowess sense of self?
Yeah.
And am I going to be able to go after my dreams of, a jujitsu world championship one day? Or like, how are people going to see me? Like it can go in other directions too. And so that's the psychological bit as well.
You know what? Damn. That's exactly how I felt. And it made me question, who am I without my physicality?
Yeah.
And I need to be more than my physicality. Two things were going on. That and
So that's a little bit of a wake up.
yeah, a huge wake up.
That's a bit like, so post-traumatic, you are not in PTSD, it sounds like, phase, but like when we go through traumatic, mini, big, whatever traumatic experiences, we can come through them significantly better. We have those wake up moments like, wait, hold on. There's more to me. I've been holding on to this physical part of me, and wait, this is kind of scary. No, shut that shit down. No. Like, I just got to get better. Or, wait, what is this other part of me? Like, let me explore this emotional bit. Let me explore the future in a more dynamic way than just being seen a certain way.
Man, that's so crazy because when I watch IG influencers and, shout out to them, no hate at all. But when I watch them and they have the voiceovers about getting through tough times in life and this, that, and the other, they're using some quote from some general or philosopher or whatnot, but they're lifting weights at the same time. I kind of laugh inside because I'm like, man, if you're only defined, and I'm not saying that they're defined by this, but if you're only defined by your physicality, whether you can fight really well or whether you're extra muscular or whatever, and you lose that's taken away from you. Mm-hmm. You can fall into a deep, insane depression and feel like you're a prisoner in your own body.
1,000%. This is why it's so important. We are not what we do.
Yeah.
And if we find ourselves in a performance-based identity, if we find ourselves in a way that we've identified with what we do, how well we do that, especially relative to other people, that's called a performance-based identity. And our world is obsessed with performance. We live, especially in the West, we live in an obsession about how well you do, right? And how well you do it relative to other people. It makes perfect sense that so many of us have built a performance-based identity, and that can get you really good at something. Because every time you go show your thing, you're just not doing the thing that you love to do. You're actually trying to demonstrate and recalibrate your sense of worth. Yeah. Because my identity is tied to how well I do what I do, and I'm going to show you how good I am. Boy, don't stumble now. Because there's so much on the line. Do you relate to that?
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. And even now that I'm fully aware of it through that, that injury, I try to, become a more learned individual, right? Read more, pay attention to the world more, be in tune, look at nature, this, that, and the other. But thing is still there where it's
you got to do, we all need to do real work on that.
Yeah.
And so these wake up moments, like with an injury, and we're left with our own self in bed, because we can't be physically mobile.
Yeah.
And we're left with our own devices of our own mind. Man, sometimes we got to wrestle with dragons that feel bigger and stronger and are a bit haunting and scary. And when we go into that den and when we're quiet, we can't have that physical prowess that we normally might have. And you're left with your own exploratory mechanisms of like who you are. That's incredible. And so if you can drill down to the question, who am I?
Yeah.
And bang on that question, no, who really am I? And explore it and get quiet with it, write it or meditate about it. And then ask yourself like, again, no, who am I really? And keep going and keep going. That's, for me, it's been a 25-year question. 25 years I've asked that question.
Yeah.
And it's still hard to put in words.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was a kid, my mom used to say that to me all the time. Go sit in a room and just think about who you are in your life all the time. But I thought she was just punishing me.
You didn't know the
I
wisdom.
didn't know the wisdom.
Yeah.
You know? But
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Let me ask you one more thing. What is happening? Where are you now relative to the, early part of your life when you had the injury that you didn't want to talk about it? Like, can we talk about the shame of like dealing with something that is invisible and hard?
I think the world has imposed this thing on us that makes us feel, gosh, weaker for expressing weakness, right? And you don't want to come across as a burden to anyone. You don't want to come across as weak to anyone. And let's just be honest, people are more attracted to strong people that can endure things, people that can carry the world on their shoulders, and just, you look at them and you want to follow them and you want to be that person, right? You want to be that person. So when weakness hits you, when you feel beat, when you feel less than, when you feel like crying, when you feel like you're in a dark place, you want to mask it. I know for myself, I've always been able to, no matter what I was just saying this to somebody the other day, you'll never know. I was arguing with someone and I was like, man, you'll never know when I'm going through something, because I don't throw my problems on people, because I was upset with them for going through what they were going through and taking it out on me. And I was like, see, that's different between me and you. I was using it as a weapon. See, if I have an issue, you'll never know about it. I'll just carry it and I'll just deal with it on my own. If I have to lock myself in a closet, sort through it, cry, scream, whatever, and I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna have this mask of a happy face on, And the strange thing is, after I said that to them and I felt like I was winning the conversation, I thought to myself, like, I could be poisoning myself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
and how do you view vulnerability relative to the concept of strength?
Theatrically, I think vulnerability is beautiful. I want to see it on film.
Yeah.
I want to see it on the screen. I want to see someone cry. I want to see their flaws.
Do you want your partner to be able to go to that place with you?
They can, but I don't know if I want to do that realistically. That's why I use theatrically. Realistically, I don't, I don't want you. I'm still bouting with it, I want to do it, but I'm just like, gosh, well, how are you going to look at me? Do you think
I recognize that.
Yeah.
I recognize that in me. And I think that's what we all want, is we want our partner to be vulnerable. We want others around us to show their real self, so we know how to trust them, so that we can be in service of helping them. It gives us a job too, right? It's a very selfish way to go through life, actually, is to only, is to not give yourself fully to another person, is a very self-serving mechanism. I'm not going to be vulnerable, because then that's what risk is I'm risking something.
Yeah.
Right? Like if your big wallet that you carry around and you put, a stack of 10,000 on the table and you're like, whatever. And then I put 10,000, I'm like, hey man, are you going to be okay with my money now? Right. So, okay. So it's right. Like if I'm risking something, then there's vulnerability required. We love the risk takers. We love the ones that are going for it and on the edge and on the frontier and pushing forward and being about it. We celebrate the brave, don't we?
Yeah.
But what's required for bravery is risk taking. And what's required for risk taking is vulnerability. So if you don't know, I'm speaking now to you in a way that was way too aggressive.
I thought you was going to flip the table over. Hey.
Yeah, right. No, I was speaking pejoratively in this way. If a person doesn't know how to be vulnerable with something, they can never understand bravery and risk taking, and they can never understand the frontier, because they're holding back. They're playing it safe, and that safety that we play in that way, one, never lets another person in. Two, prevents you from understanding what you're fully capable of. And so the model is flipping. I don't know if you can feel it.
Oh yeah.
You can feel it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool, man.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
There's there's a cadre of us, you included in this, that are, and it's not just a small cadre, it's like a large force of people that are saying, I'm not fucking doing it this way anymore. I'm not propping up this shiny armor and every day waxing it and making sure this armor that's heavy to operate, that if I don't rust it properly and if I don't shine it properly, it's not gonna work right. And I'm shining and I'm putting I'm putting the oil in it and I'm shining it up every day so it looks good and amazing. And I'm spending so much time on the armor. Like, I'd rather walk around in moccasins and like be like, hey, look, this is it now.
Yeah.
And we can argue, and I'm gonna be here in the argument, and we can also cry, and I'm gonna be here too. I want to know your pain, and I want you to know mine. And I'm gonna carry your pain, and I hope you'll carry mine. And like, let's go shout at the moon together and get wild. Let's go somewhere together. And so that there's the new generation, this new calling for what it means to be a man is happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's strength in it now. This is not like, there's also another kind of ringing the bell that people are saying right now. Tell me if you're finding this, like, we're losing manhood. We're losing our way. Like, the man of the year is actually a woman.
Yeah.
And like, we've lost what it means to be a man. I think there is some of that as well.
1,000%.
I think there is some of that as well.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's creating space for people that value being about it, walking the talk and talking the walk, and 100% to your idea, or 1,000% like being the best version of you. And it's not going to happen without the requisite understanding on how to live in the strength of vulnerability.
It's funny that you brought up that second part, because feeling that change and what it is, I'm happy about it, because I feel like I have one foot in the old school way and one foot in the new school way. And initially, a friend of mine asked me, he's like, why'd you get into like jujitsu and fighting and all these things? And I was like, to be honest with you, one part because I love martial arts and anime, and I thought those things were cool. But the second most important part was so I could give myself permission to be me, to paint my nails, to dress the way I want to dress.
So you don't have to be afraid of being punked by another man.
Yeah.
And you could square up and say, hey, you can say whatever you want. I could put physical harm into your life.
Dr. Mike, you have no idea how many times I've said that. I'm like, I'll beat your ass though.
Yeah,
I wear a dress, but I'll beat your ass.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it made me feel so good.
Man, I feel really nervous about the way I made fun of your blue. Thank you for giving me a pass.
No, because you've caught me in that transitionary period. Because now I even realized that was toxic.
Transitioning, huh?
Yeah, that was toxic. Even creating that it served its purpose. That thing that I created served its purpose. And now I'm realizing now it's a detriment to me.
Man, we need you to stand up, to be 100% the person that you want to be that person. We men and women need you. Literally, I'm speaking right to you, need you to be authentic. And to do that fight is a radical fight. Being a man is not about just propping up a certain image. That is so old and tired. And because you poke that man that's just been propping up for a long time, there's not a whole lot inside. Yeah. I'm not getting in a foxhole with that dude. I don't care what you look like, how strong you look. If you get poked and all you have is anger, come on.
That's true.
That's all you have? Yeah. Come on. Like, you want to be in a foxhole with like a one-dimensional person that's going to like turn anger when he gets stressed in the foxhole? No, man. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. That's tired.
Yeah. Very tired.
Yeah. I'm excited for like 2024 in that way.
I am too. I really am too.
Yeah.
I believe this young generation is really leading the charge. I'm all for it.
Yes. And, and so I'm stoked, man. Like 2024, I don't make a resolution, but what I do is I set an intention for the year of. Yeah. And so it's just a pretty radical way to think about, like, last year was the year of play. Mm-hmm. And so my thing was like more like a panda.
Okay. And I'm gonna need you to explain that to me.
Like, I just want to play more.
Okay.
That was last year. I just want to play more.
Yeah.
And I think I did a really good job. You know, like, it doesn't mean that I didn't get stressed, and like all that did happen, and I felt my edges, but I just playing. And so the panda, like when I think of like who plays in the wild,
Yeah.
like no one really screws with the panda. They're so big and strong and powerful. They just roll around, have fun, do whatever they want.
Yeah.
You know, like they don't have any predators.
Yeah.
And so because of that, this is like your model, right? Like they don't have predators because they're so badass that they can just play.
Oh, pandas are badass?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
See the size of a panda?
Uh-huh.
They don't give a rat's. They'll roll around, do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And like they play and have fun, and because they don't have natural predators.
I love that. I love that analogy. I'm gonna take that.
Oh, so you might be the year of play?
You
don't have to co-sign yet.
No, I like that. I had no idea. I didn't know pandas didn't have predators and they just do what they want.
Maybe I made some of this up. Let's double check it. But I think it's right. Like I used it. I
People
used
gonna
it
be
really
Googling,
well.
does a panda have predators?
Yeah, I don't think so. But like if you search up like what a panda represents, I was so inspired by that. Like I needed that.
Yeah.
And so I made a fundamental commitment. This is what the year of is about. A fundamental commitment that my intention for this year is to find ways that I can be more like a panda. I can play more, be more playful in even the seriousness of the things that I'm engaged in.
I fuck with that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's gonna be mine. I love that.
Yeah. How about it?
Yeah, that's gonna be my intention.
If we got a year's end, and so this is a way to kind of think backwards on it. The intention is year of play, and we got to December next year, December 2024. I said, how'd you do? Like, how would you know that you are successful with a year of play, for example?
How would I know? I guess I would have to do a recount of like how many times I really, really got stressed, right? How many times I really, really let things overwhelm me. I mean, and I'm good at that because I remember.
Yeah, and then and then the way to make that true is like daily.
Yeah.
Right? Like every day when you think like you're, pulling the sheets over at the end of the day, like, did I play? Or was I like so serious that I was more like some other animal that like is always serious? Like a hyena feels very serious, right?
Yeah.
A wolf, feels very serious. That's fine, no problems, but like, was I true to my intention to play? And so like, if you can get it daily and you just had a check mark, like, I was a bit of a panda today, badass playing. And like, you know what? We had a great time and we got some stuff done.
I love that. I'm going to adopt that because I think that's amazing. Because I don't think life was made to be so serious. Dr. Mike, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I could talk about this with you all day. I really could. I want to, but I got to get into these questions because there's some juicy questions in here. All right. So I want you to hear this first one from my boy, Alex. What's up, Alex? How do I know to trust a feeling versus ignore it because it's just my mind jumping to a conclusion?
Okay. So that question is really about intuition. Intuition is, I think it's complicated. And I'll tell you why I think it's complicated. Let me just talk about myself more than I talk about science here for a minute. Is that when I'm in a setting and something's happening, I'll use, so for 18 years, I built this program called Late Night Sports, a nonprofit program. And it was high-level basketball, not professional, for high school and college age kids in LA. And it was intense. It was an intense environment. It was only Saturday nights from 8 till midnight, 1 a.m. We only had 3 fights over 18 years. And LA basketball, that's like, how'd you do that?
Yeah.
It was actually the study of my dissertation of the program that we built. And so there's a whole methodology behind it. All that being said is every night, you would know this. I think you would know this. I got really good at tuning to, is a fight about to break out?
Yeah.
There is a unspoken energy that happens, and it's all micro expressions. It's not even demonstrative like, oh, he balled up his fist. It's not that. It's just this slight little micro expression chippiness that's in the air. And everybody that's in that environment paying attention knows, like
Yeah.
is hot now,
Yeah.
and we could cross this line quickly. So I developed this intuition about like when there was about to be physical violence in an environment. So that was tuned and developed over time. And I don't feel like I've lost it, even though I haven't been around that program for a minute. That's a good example of listening to intuition. Okay. And I'll explain how the science of that I think works in a minute. The other thing on the intuition is like when you feel you have a spidey sense that somebody's lying, or you have this feeling that, I don't know, just somebody's not like trustworthy, or you're not sure if you should say the honest, you know, give yourself to this person. You've got some sort of intuition that something's not quite right. Do you listen to it? Is it right? Or are you just playing a game to protect yourself? Is this old scar tissue that's protecting you? Or is it real time, honest feedback that is accurate? It's hard to discern that. Am I being in a protective way? Or am I really tuned to what's actually happening right now? And this is not safe. So people will throw around trust your intuition. Well, my intuition has taught me to not trust people. I have to second click to see if that's true or not. And so I don't come into environments where I'm like, whatever you say, like I want to chin check it a little bit. So what is my intuition? My intuition says, maybe don't believe, because I had to navigate truth, in an interesting way growing up. So should I listen to my intuition, or should I be more abundant? Should I trust more? And I think this is really tricky because we are working in a non-conscious way so often. There's tons of information that's coming through, and it's being pushed and filtered through our non-conscious system, below conscious detection. And Daniel Kahneman, now I'll get into some of the science. Daniel Kahneman did a really nice job of talking about, two systems that we have, system 1 and system 2. Thinking fast and slow is kind of the groundbreaking work that he had. So system 1 is the intuitive, and it's fast, and information's coming in, bang, 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 and you're always gating out, am I safe? Am I safe? Are we okay? Are we okay? And then system 2 is slower, and it relies on cognitive processing. So if you think about it in this way, and I'm going to mix a couple bits of information, top-down processing takes longer. Let me think about this. Right now, I'm up in the conscious brain, and it just happens a bit slower than the fast information that's coming in below detectable awareness. So there's 2 roads that information are coming in. There's the high road, which is the thinking brain, and the low road, which is, am I safe? And it's below awareness. And that's going right into the emotional fight, flight, protection mechanisms. So without thinking, if you said something or moved in a certain way just enough, I would animate all of the readiness to fight you, more like run from you. And that happens without awareness. Bang, it just happens. My body is turned on, and it's to protect me. So intuition is working non-consciously below the level, and we have sensory mechanisms to say pay attention, is what I'm getting to. So we feel, if we're a sensitive instrument, we can feel when our non-conscious, below detectable thought, we are getting information whether we're safe, whether this is okay or not okay. Should we trust that? Yeah, but if you've been traumatized, and we all have at some level, small t or big T, then you have to do real work to know if that low road, below conscious awareness information that's coming through is showing up accurately for this moment, or it's showing up, it's residue from early trauma and it's carry forward. You have to do real work to understand how to trust your intuition. Otherwise, you're carrying around protective mechanisms that served you well coming through some trauma, but might not be serving you well now. So, long way of saying, you got to do work. You got to do real work to know what your intuition actually is, and when it's just there to protect you from a former trauma. And the more sensitive of an instrument you become, the better you are at listening to the feelings that are coming from your body. And it's one of the things, and I'm using that word feelings very specifically, it's one of the really amazing components of being a human, is that we have feelings. We have ways that we're interpreting our external world and our internal sense of safety. And if we are muted because of drugs, of alcohol, of flipping through numbness and social, dumb conversations, dumb music, dumb TV, if we're muted, from any of the things that numb us and dumb us, then we lose the ability to be highly sensitive, radical antenna that this human instrument is. And I know what both sides of this feel like. And so there's an aliveness that comes when you tune your instrument to know how to work with feelings, to know how to work with intuition. And that intuition is not just carryover residue sloppily, built-in protecting mechanisms from years before. And so it does require some vulnerability to work at this level. And I'm giving you a lot here. I know I went probably way too deep in this conversation.
No.
But yeah.
You've brought some questions up. So that non-conscious, that low road, your gut, and correct me if I'm wrong here, your gut, so to speak, does that mean that old cliche saying of trust your gut is not so accurate, that you have to learn to trust your gut? You have to train to trust your gut rather than the high road, that information that comes up top, the thinking information? Because it sounds like you just can't trust your gut from what you say. Like you have to be trained, or you have to be trained to trust that gut, that non-conscious information that's coming in.
Yeah, it's rooted in survival. That's what we're that's why this mechanism, we believe, Kahneman and others believe, Antonio Damasio has done a ton of real rich work here, is that we believe it's rooted mostly in survival. If you don't have it, life is I don't think I don't think the world is a safe world. I think it's hosile.
Yeah.
I think it's relatively, it's dangerous. And so if you don't have mechanisms, but I feel safe in it, in that interesting mix.
Yeah, very interesting mix.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Because I was about to agree with you and say, I don't feel like it's a safe world either. What makes you feel safe?
Because I know how to listen well
to
this radical instrument of my physical body. And then I have invested for years in a sophisticated way how to use my thoughts, how to be aware of my thoughts, to navigate in alignment with my core values towards the purpose that matters most to me, with people that are part of the community that I want to be in.
Yeah.
So it's values, it's people, and it's working in a hostile, rugged, unsafe environment with purpose towards the future that I'm working to co-create.
Yeah.
And when you have those abilities in place, and listen, I get chin checked all the time too. When you go to the frontier, you'll find out you don't have it all together.
Yeah.
If you play it safe in whatever mechanism that you're going to live in, the safety of your couch, let's be ridiculous for a moment, you don't really ever know where the gaps are in exploring your potential. So if you're going to get out in the wild in the frontier, and you don't have skills for that environment, or partners that have the skills that compensate for the ones you don't have yet, then it gets really tricky. So we can all be better as an instrument, and that's where I think the real investment is invest in this radical instrument that is lying dormant for many of us. Meditation, writing, conversations with people of wisdom, right? Invest in your psychology, study yourself, know how to work with your thoughts and emotions and feelings, match them with a craft, and then go to the frontier with values, with purpose, with your people.
Gotcha. Next question. This is actually something I actually do a lot. I'm curious about the use of humor as a mental skill in high stress situations or after a mistake.
Humor's great. It does so much. And knowing and being sophisticated, not with like being a sophisticated humorist or like a comedian. I'm not saying that, but knowing how to use humor is, I think it's one of the critical skills for high performing, high stress, even consequential environments. Is it like, and I use the word critical because there's a skill to it. And so humor applied at the wrong time, it's no good. It doesn't work. You get your team or your people to look at you like, hey man, get with it. But you use humor in just the right way and it changes the entire thing. It's like stress reduction happens. There's a whole cascade. It gets people to be fully focused in the present moment in a different way. There's an exhale, ha, 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 ha. So there's an exhale that takes place. It changes the way that, our heart is functioning, our body tension. Like, it's amazing. It takes levity out of a unnecessarily tight situation. Like, it's really good. And I've seen so much of like great working teams. They have one or two people that are so great at, and you hear it's like, oh man, you just know how to say the right thing at the right. That's perfect. Oh, I needed that. That's great. And so humor is wonderful. It can be also a defense mechanism. So it can keep people from going deep. And so you'll see it in folks where like, as soon as you'll say something, and you use it well here in this way, there it is. Yeah, right. Which is like, your laugh is awesome and infectious. And the humor can keep a safety mechanism to check. It's a way of saying like, am I actually okay? Do I have permission to take a little further? But I'm going to hide behind the humor for a little bit to just have a little bit of a safety mechanism. Yeah, right. That's
1,000%.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so you'll see it when I'm working with an athlete or whatever. And like, I'll say something to see if they'll open the door. And if they laugh and smile, and it's a mechanism to say, basically, I can't go to another place because I'm going to fall into 1,000 pieces. I'm afraid to go there. And I'll say like, oh, your first response is to laugh about that, huh? And they'll be like, yeah.
You actually say that?
Yeah, it's like like if someone's almost out of place laughing, they'll be like, oh, your first response is to laugh. And I won't say it with judgment or critique, but I'll just say it.
Yeah.
And that's another opportunity for them to walk through the door or not. And they go, yeah, I always do that, man. Or they'll say, yeah, I mean, that's just funny. Okay. We'll come back to this some other time. No problem. Right. So, but humor is like, it is so good. And I love it. I'm not a funny person, but I really value when somebody can just come in and call the truth in a fun way, and it just levels everyone down. And there's, it creates this bonding between people, and like, it's just great. And sometimes there's really dark humor, in consequential environments that, like, you think about some of the special operators that, and they'll say some stuff to each other that if it was ever repeated, and they're rolling, guts hurting, laughing. And if it was ever repeated out of context, people would think it was like, that's terrible. But in that moment, if you were there, you'd be like, no, like, you don't understand. Like, I just love every part of it. And it's a reframing of a situation that brings truth and levity and can poke right at the center of something in a way that gives permission for people to let loose on it or let go of it or just see it just slightly differently. And it's just, I have such high regard for that. And yes, there is a great place in high performing environments for people to bring humor into it.
You said you use it, you can use it for bonding. I usually start off using it for bonding to, lower people's walls, disarm them and whatnot. And then I use it as a defense mechanism when I don't want to discuss things that are uncomfortable, or I want to make the world seem a little more simpler than it is, rather than go into that dark place. Interestingly enough, I've been told I go too far. Right? I've been told
most comedians, good ones, they know that. Do you know the line?
Nah.
No, you don't know.
Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm not rephrasing it. I
No.
don't know the line, but I only don't know the line because I'll let you set the line. So if you
that's
say
interesting.
something about me or you joke about something, then you are giving me permission to do the same.
I see. Yeah,
about
right.
you.
Yeah, right.
And that's where I always, in the past, have fallen into trouble. Because they'll be like, oh yeah, and I'm like, wait a minute. I thought we were, I thought we were going there. Well, I thought we could go there.
Have you studied the art?
I mean, yes, improvisationally, yes.
Yeah.
But as far as like formally, no. Well, yeah, that is formally. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there's this feeling that I have that, like, if another psychologist and I were to spar and we're going to use humor, and it's kind of like,
Yeah.
I've got a handful of really good friends that are sports psychs, and we go at it, and it's great. And I'm not afraid to do that with them.
Yeah.
Like we know our lines, and as soon as somebody responds, with like, we all just pile on, and it's the funniest moment, like, button found,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, okay, so it's awesome. But to spar with a comedian scares me. I think they're better at psychology than we give them any credit for.
I agree.
I think, and the wit and the way to turn something and reframe it in the most clever, honest, biting. We had a comedian on, Michael Rosenbaum, and like the way that he would just fire, I was like always on guard. Like, is he going to take me to a place that like I feel completely naked? And I've just got the highest regard for comedians, and so
yeah, I think it's interesting because I often just let you open the door because I mean, maybe I'm just thinking too highly of myself when I say this. I don't think I have a line. You can say anything about me. I mean, anything, and I'll take it. But when you do that, I'm like, you just got to be prepared because I'm coming back.
Yeah,
and
right.
I have found in my life, and I'm sure I'll meet my match, but I have found in my life that a lot of the people I interact with they have a line that's a little,
it's a little shallower.
than mine.
Right.
And I've been reprimanded for going too far. And I'm like, oh man, I thought we could go there.
Mama jokes are.
Nah, I don't care about none of that. You could talk. My mom could. I mean, no time soon, mom live forever. But my mom could be dead, and you can crack a joke on her at the funeral, and I might laugh if it's a funny joke. I probably will laugh, but just be ready for when your mom dies. I will be at that funeral.
So there is a line.
And no, it's not a get back line. It's just that it's a you open the door for me.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, we're of like minds. Because let's just be real. I'm trying to bond with you.
Oh, is that what's?
I'm trying to bond with you. Yeah.
Right,
and if you're a like-minded individual, and we can talk about our dead mamas at the funeral. Let's do it, bro.
It takes risks now.
Big risk.
It takes risks now.
Big risk.
And so, if it's a real place on a team. And so if you've got some humor chops and you're on a high performing team, like step into that a little bit. Yeah. But you can lose the team quickly too. That's the risk.
Yeah.
That when you are off timed or you've taken it too far or it's too often, your team will let you know, like, hey man, like shut up.
That shit ain't funny, man.
Right. Yeah. Right. And you got a problem when they just roll their eyes and don't say anything and confront you. That if you're in that vacuum and you're missing the cues, it could be an early sign, early exit. Do you have any moments where, you've noticed the power of humor in your own life?
Gosh, yeah. So many. I mean, wow. This is gonna sound like a really cliche answer, but every moment is like that probably. So to pick one is just, I'm not serious ever. I'm just revealing a major flaw.
No, like, do you feel pressure?
Yeah, immense.
So it's interesting because one of the things that humor does and can do is that I mentioned it earlier, that it can pull you into the present moment in a different kind of way. And so pressure is it's this tightening up. It's like you're getting boxed in. It's this squeezing of yourself. It comes from within. It's the way that you're framing a situation and your body's tightening up and your thinking is tightening up. it's as if you need to think or do faster, more accurately than you think that you're capable of doing. So there's a tension in the way that your mind and body are experiencing a present moment. And so when that takes place and somebody cracks a joke, it's almost like it just puts air into this box. Boom, and it's like, oh, like, what was I just doing?
Yeah.
And so that's where the people in locker rooms that have just something, bang, quick wit, and it just decompresses everything by giving life into a moment by seeing it differently. That's one of the reasons I think it's so critical for high performing environments.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely attracted to people that have that ability because you make me feel like, okay, everything is gonna be all right.
Yeah,
What
right.
was I serious for? Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
1000%.
People ask me all the time, like, what do you see in a team like during warmups? Like, what are you looking at? I can't tell if a team's ready or not. That's like, we're not there in sophistication of reading body language across big teams. Like, we can get a felt sense, but I don't know how accurate it is. Maybe I'm a little bit more accurate because I pay more attention to that stuff than a technical coach could, you know? But one of the things that I am looking for is kind of the eyes are up a little bit and there's a nod, you know, like, and there's like a way that they're exuding a knowing that they're going to be able to bring their best. They're going to bring everything they got to the situation. And sometimes there's like a deep focus, you know, like, but there's a knowing that they're demonstrating that they're going to bring everything to the situation. And when somebody is kind of big-eyed in a way that, or overly tight, those are the ones that you want to maybe use some humor with, because you can't walk up to them and say, relax, you're okay. You know, that's like the exact wrong thing to ever say to someone who's tight.
Yeah.
Like that is like, that'll rebound so quickly. Like, one, the narrative of that person is, oh my God, they know. Right. And the other is like, I am fine. And so now you put them in a defensive situation, you know? And so it just doesn't work.
So what do you say? What do you?
So say somebody is feeling overly tight
Yeah.
and they're pressing too hard and they're kind of, the timing is off on something and you can tell it's not smooth, but it's tight. One, you need a reference point to know what smooth looks like for them. So you got to be around a lot. And then the other is like, it is to be able to, you need to have equity in the relationship to have permission to show up and say anything or do anything. So there's got to be tons of equity built and some calibration and permission on what that person wants in that moment. So before I would ever make an intervention like that, intervention sounds so big, but before I would step into that person's process, I would already have a conversation with them like, hey, what does it look like when you're too tight? Oh, this, that, and the other. If I were to ever notice that, would you want me to step in? Yeah, man. Yeah, that'd be great. Like I just get caught myself and I don't know what to do and Like that would be awesome. Okay, like, would you want me to say this or that or do this or that? Oh, none of those. This. Oh, gotcha. So now it's already like the work has already been done. So if I see someone that's tight based on what they've said tight looks like, and I'm seeing it, they've already given me permission. We've already agreed on a strategy, and then I execute that.
Yeah.
And some people are like, look, walk by me and like, just say I'm fucking leaking, you know, and smile. And that was something that a handful of us would do on the Seahawks is like, hip check me, look at me, make it casual, and just whisper in my ear. I'll know that you're laughing inside and I'm laughing inside, that like I'm fucking leaking everywhere. You know, like, hey bro, you're leaking. Yeah, okay, got it. And so that's one example. Another example is like somebody said like, just look at me. And when I see you, you remind me that I'm capable of so much. Just look at me. You know, like get a moment and look at me and like give me that smile. Okay, cool, gotcha. Some people say, stay away. Like I got to just figure that out. The last thing I want is any type of, but it's usually very subtle things. It's not a sit down in pregame. It's not that. So it's subtle, it's casual. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, say some stupid joke. Like, Mike, you got a lot of them. Like, just say something stupid.
Yeah.
What? What, you want to say something stupid? Yeah. Like, your jokes are terrible. Just tell me a bad joke again. All right, I got you. You know, so it's like, and I'm not marginalizing the psychology of excellence. I'm actually finding out what the right rhythm is to work with people that are uniquely different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how do you like it if you're in a competitive space?
Man, I'm so glad you asked me that because I was, I want to be given the permission to make as many mistakes as possible. If you let me fuck up as much as possible, I know I'll get it right.
Yeah.
I'm tight because I'm afraid of fucking up.
Yeah. So you would want somebody in your corners like, this is what I would say to you. I would suggest that we do something like, keep pushing, let go, keep trusting.
Yeah.
You figure shit out now. When mistakes happen, you figure out how to adjust. Keep pushing. Now you know the formula.
Yeah.
Like you'd want to see the future and embrace that mistakes are all fine, that you're a problem solver. And that's just good information. That type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's that fear like, oh fuck, I fucked up. And then when you let me know I fucked up, and then after you let me know I fucked up, you tell me fix it. Then I'm like, oh shit, he saw that I fucked up. And now he's telling me to fix it.
Yeah,
what if I fuck up again?
Yeah, right.
And then it begins to mount.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's really cool.
So
yeah, that's cool, man. Like, and everyone's got their unique way. You know, some people want to be called out. Like, I've told you 1,000,000 times, don't give him your arm. He's great at the triangle. Like, why would you give him you'll give him your, you know, some people want that.
Yeah. God damn. Just you saying it. I'm like,
who would want
who the
that?
fuck wants that?
Yeah, right.
You yelling at me, I'm running off the mat. Like, I'm out of here.
We're all different.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. Yeah.
All right. This next question is from Tom Carroll.
Tom Carroll?
Tom Carroll.
The Tom Carroll?
The Tom Carroll.
Oh, man.
What's up, Tom? Hi, Mike. Tom Carroll here. I was a guest on your podcast some time ago, episode 100.
Legend.
Well, perhaps back in 2018, he said. It was a very rewarding experience for me. Thank you.
Very cool.
Okay. Tom had surgical reconstruction of his abductor mechanism, his right hip, performed on June the 26th. And a result of 54 years of high-level surfing. He has two questions here. One, can you break down how physiology plays into psychology during downtimes away from our regular activities? Or perhaps vice versa would be more apt.
So when we go through, I'm assuming this is relative to the injury cycle. And we talked about it earlier, like with you, is that our physiology and our psychology are intimately tied. So when we think about physiology, you can think about like the electrical and chemical experience that's happening inside the body. It's not that simple, but if you think about that as a way to think about physiology, that and our psychology are the way that we think and we interpret those signals. And so our feelings and emotions, right? Okay, so how does physiology and psychology relate? I'm going to just say that they're intimately connected. There's nothing groundbreaking about that thought. I do want to speak to the injury process. And when you are an injured athlete, that's very different than an athlete with an injury. So there's a squaring of identity that is very important here. So if you're an injured athlete, meaning I identify as being an athlete and I'm an injured one, I'm like a lame animal, if you will. That's a very hard, dark, difficult experience to navigate. If you're an athlete with an injury, so I'm an athlete, which I don't think is the highest order of thinking, but I'm an athlete and I have an injury. So it's like the injury hasn't defined my sense of being. There is a higher level, which is it escapes beyond identity and label. And that higher standard is that this is an experience that I'm having and I'm going to navigate this too. And it could be labeled hard, okay? Or it could be labeled just part of my experience. And so when people are able to navigate the experience as if it was something new, a challenge, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to get better. If my adductor is down, was it adductor?
Yeah.
Yeah. My adductor goes down. Okay, I'm going to do all that right rehab. And I'm like this full human. whether I'm working through an adductor surgery or not, I'm full. So I'm going to read. I'm going to invest in my love life. I might invest in dynamic vision. I might do some actual work to get my vision right. Because when I get back out surfing or when I get into whatever, if like there's just dimensionality. So athletes that go into the training room, think about a football field or a football team or whatever, it doesn't matter. When they go into the locker room, we all know that that can be a very dangerous experience for them emotionally and psychologically. But the ones that navigate it the best, they're the ones that purpose is big, identity is not locked into just what you do. And it's more like, hey, I figured things out. And I know that sport is a phase of my life. It's really important. And of course, I want to get better at everything I'm doing. I'm going to get better at working through the process of my recovery. And I'm going to take advantage of this time and up level in other parts of my life that I haven't been watering well. Those are the ones that figure it out now. And then while they're in that training room cycle, they're mobilizing their external social resources as well. So they don't feel isolated and lonely and separate. They form their own little mini tribe in that setting. So one of the hard places for the other types of identity of self that are more limiting, I'm an injured athlete or an athlete with an injury. And again, those step differences are remarkable. If you can't get past like the identity piece, be an athlete with an injury versus an injured athlete. Be very clear.
Yeah.
But one of the dark sides for people is that they see themselves as being an athlete, and athleticism is happening out there in practice or on game day. And they don't see that this rehab process is part of the experience, and they feel separate. So they're like ostracized. And coaches don't like to walk through the training room. They don't, some coaches do not want an athlete that's got a boot on or a cast on to come to practice because it reminds everybody that you can get hurt. That's so old and bad and dumb. It's just dumb. Like get your athlete in the training room. Get your athlete in the meeting room. Have them run coaching sessions. Have them out observing on the field. Now, you don't want to put them in harm's way if they can't get out of the way of a play that unfolds, it spills into the sidelines or whatever. But have them be part of it if you value that person and you value what they're going to contribute when they come back. If you don't value the person and you don't value what they're going to contribute, that's where that fear-based thing comes in, and you want to marginalize them and keep them in the place where injured people are. Forget about it. And so I've seen great coaches that, like at the Seahawks, they would fold them in dynamic ways as quickly as we possibly could. And it was awesome to see how they would do that. I mean, they did a really nice job at it. Other clubs I've been part of, not so much.
Wow. I want to get to Tom's second question, but I want to just cover that real quick. I've never heard of it like that. That's brilliant.
Oh, cool.
Athlete with an injury as opposed to an injured athlete.
Yeah.
And that whole experience of getting injured is part of being an athlete.
Yeah.
And then using that time to grow and to develop other skills. Because I mean, I hate to bring things back to jiu-jitsu, but in jiu-jitsu, use that as an analogy. But oftentimes when you get an injury in jiu-jitsu, you would develop other aspects of the game that you never paid attention to because you were so good at doing that one thing. But now that your knee's messed up or your hand's messed up or something, or your neck's a certain type of way, you have to play a certain type of game. And then when you heal up, you realize that, wait a minute, I just developed
dimension. So that's somebody who's able to be agile. So think about flexibility, resilience, and agility. Okay. So resilience is, whoa, I just got knocked back. Whew, adversity. I got to figure out how to put my foot in the ground and get back to where I was and maybe take an extra step. That's resilience.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's exactly what we want. It's cool. We need it. Flexibility is like, whoo, I'm about to get knocked. I'm down in the splits. You miss me. I'm back up. I'm here. So that's being flexible. Okay, cool. Psychological agility is like, oh, you just knocked me now. Like say we're walking like towards each other and you're like, you're going to knock me off balance. You give me a shoulder check, right? Agility is now that I take that and I can pivot in a way, I can put my foot in the ground, pivot in a way and come through that experience, staying online or just adjacent to where I want to go. And you haven't knocked me back. You haven't stopped my momentum, but I'm agile enough to work and pivot, put my foot in the ground and keep rolling. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That psychological agility rests on a whole set of psychological principles and practices to see your current experience as an opportunity rather than a threat. And if you don't invest in that deeper work that I'm talking about, then when something happens, you see it as a threat to identity, to self, to future.
Yeah.
And that's where we find we're getting knocked back. And that's not exactly the most dynamic way to do it.
Yeah.
Agility is where it's at. And it starts with the framing is whatever I have in my life, do I see it as a threat or an opportunity? And if you can be on that opportunity side, you just become more agile as a human. And that takes practice. And that rests on being able to be confident and calm and optimistic and deeply focused. And it rests on a whole set of psychological skills that you can practice.
Yeah. Just
like you practice sets and reps of like mobility work or strength training, you can practice sets and reps of confidence and calm and optimism and. So anyways, I love it, Tom. Come on, Tom.
Yeah, I love that.
Keep fighting, Tom.
Agile,
optimistic, opportunity. That's kind of the worth its weight in gold.
This was mad informative, man. I'm glad this new year started off like this. I love this.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, year of psychological agility
and panda.
I'm
a psychologically agile panda. Fuck with me. Yeah.
All right, man. I appreciate you, and let's have some fun.
I appreciate you too.